Well, all the confusion about whether the STEM category draws are going to happen, whether the trade is going to happen, the transport is going to happen, when is it going to happen, it's pretty much now come to an end with the new ATIP notes that we have obtained, or rather, my very good friend, Canadian immigration lawyer Stephen Murrens has obtained, which reflects and shows the decision, the policy decision that was proposed to Mark Miller, and I understand it was approved somewhere in the month of early June this year in 2024. And this reflects how IRCC had made the policy decision, policy change, to start conducting more Canadian experience class draws, because obviously it was identified a lot of people, their postgraduate work permits were expiring, and it was anticipated that they should be given a chance to regularize their status in Canada and become permanent resident. So there was a lot of heavy loading, that's the word being used, for the draws, so that more Canadian experience class applicants could avail this opportunity. It was also identified that less than about 2 to 3% of the Canadian experience class candidates reside outside Canada. All right, so therefore that number was seen as too small to have a distinguished draw of people who are inside Canada or outside Canada. So they continued with the CEC draw, which would basically impact, or rather would benefit, all the people who have the Canadian experience. And as I said, this was predominantly done identifying the fact that more than 26,000 people whose postgraduate work permits had earlier been extended. Remember the COVID policy where you could get an extension of up to 18 months for your postgraduate work permit? Well, most of those work, I think about 26,000, again, this is as per the ATIP notes, about 26,000 were expiring towards the third quarter of this year, and therefore, keeping that in mind, they decided to conduct more CEC draws. This basically meant that if they had to conduct these CEC draws, these numbers had to come from somewhere. And because in the original plan, there was no plan to conduct CEC specific draw, therefore it had to, something had to go, right? I think the burden that had to be shared was between the categories, and STEM has been taken off, or rather was taken off, transport was taken off, agriculture was taken off. And again, as I'm saying, these notes that you can see, they have been shared. You can find it on my Twitter account as well. But these notes reflect very clearly that this policy decision was proposed and implemented somewhere in the month of June or early June of 2024. It identified the first Canadian experience class draw in the month of May, and it also indicated that going forward in the middle of June, the draws that would be conducted, it should be like a PNP specific, and then it should be followed by CEC. Of course, the category draws, as these notes now indicate, show that there was always the emphasis for the healthcare, trade, and francophone or the French proficiency categories, and that, as we all have seen, have continued. And it also says that there was a push to increase the size of the draw for the francophones so that they could meet the 7% target for 2024. Overall, if you see, or rather if you get a gist from these notes, and for people who do not know what ATIP notes are, ATIP notes basically is access to information and privacy, and something what you know in India as RTI, right to information, right? So under this ATIP, you can request from the government agencies any aspect of the policy decisions they have made, and this is how Stephen Murrens obtains lots and lots of ATIP notes to identify exactly how IRCC is operating and what they're doing and what they're not doing. And this is how exactly these notes have also been obtained. And again, the notes are there for you to see. It doesn't really blow your mind otherwise, but it does tell you that STEM for this year 2024 is not going to happen. Transport and agriculture are also not going to be conducted, at least in 2024. Now, there's some portion of these notes that also reflects on the fact that the invitations that are being issued from June onwards, and given the lag, and that's the word they've used, given the lag of the time the invitations are issued and by the time people become permanent residents, there could be between 6 to 16 months of that period, right? For the processing time, 6 months, and then people who are not inside Canada, they could have up to 1 year of coming back to Canada within the validity of the visa. So given that lag, a lot of people who will be receiving their ITAs for the remainder of 2024, June onwards, they would probably count towards the permanent resident targets for 2025. Now, obviously, since these notes, or rather this particular document was approved in early June, it basically means by that time, the immigration levels plan had not been tabled, it had not been finalized, it had not been decided upon. And the immigration levels plan that we now have further has the Inside Canada or in Canada focus, which then also confirms the attention that is being paid to people who have Canadian experience class. Overall, these notes just confirms the what we were afraid of about the STEM category, agriculture and transport, that those draws would not be conducted in 2024. Now, I know a lot of you are saying, what's going to happen in 2025? Now, I don't know, obviously, but from whatever has been indicated in the immigration levels plan for 2025, it seems STEM is not part of the plan. It seems agriculture and transport are also not part of the plan. So it's going to be predominantly a CEC under the in Canada focus. Of course, in the in Canada focus, you could also have some federal skilled workers who probably have an arranged employment or arranged job offer. You could also have the federal skilled trade category, though I'm not very positive with that one. And otherwise, under the category-based draws, you will continue to have the healthcare, the francophones, and the trade categories. Therefore, it looks like, as STEM, agriculture, and transport is concerned, this is pretty much the end of the track for those guys. OINP, that still remains open. Now, as far as OINP is concerned, and I know a lot of you are right now pinning your hopes on OINP, because OINP has always conducted their tech draw. They were never really relying upon IRCC's draw. It was only that once IRCC started conducting the STEM category draw, they started playing it in tandem so that they were not going to duplicate the number of invitations, though I think they failed there a couple of times as well. But I would assume Ontario will listen to the labour market priorities, because if you notice, about a couple of months back, they did conduct a draw, but they were for other priority occupations and have not conducted a STEM or a tech draw for a very long time. So you could see a change of plan from Ontario as well. But again, I guess Ontario is best to sort of come back and decide and let us know what their plans are, which probably will be once they have started conducting their draws. But at this point of time, for STEM, it looks a bit difficult unless Ontario conducts a draw under the tech categories. As far as the healthcare is concerned, I'm sure Ontario will continue with that. Trades, they're already conducting, so there's no problem with that. The other priority occupations is the interesting bit, and I hope to see Ontario conducting more of that. Now, on the other front, I mean, other than this, yes, Mark Miller has now made several press statements stating that they are very, very seriously looking at ways to curb the scam, the fraud that is ongoing, that is prevailing within the job offer market and within the asylum seekers, and that there are several steps that they're going to take in order to curb those. Now, what that will be, I don't know at this point of time, whether they will remove the point system for LMIAs, whether there will be more stringent checks on that, whether the asylum seeking process for people who are inside Canada, will that change? Well, more changes are definitely on the horizon. I think it's about time, in the sense of Canada trying to curb a lot of fraud that is taking place within the immigration. We definitely need to do something better in terms of how things are managed. And I guess Mark Miller finally is coming on board with that. I will keep you updated as and how things will happen. But for this time, the latest, as I said, the update would be that the STEM, agriculture and transport, as far as 2024 is concerned, and as per these notes that have been received, will no longer be part of the draws. Let's see how IRCC starts the new year with. Will we see more draws with the Canadian experience class? Will we see larger draws? Because we certainly would like to see those scores coming down. Even these notes indicate the 500 CRS was what they were looking to sort of bring in. But I think they didn't talk about it, they didn't plan about the gaps that really led to the scores shooting up again. So fingers crossed, let's see and let's hope how 2025 will start, so we can see larger size Canadian experience class draws, so that at least finally we can see the scores of 500s hitting. Stay updated with me, stay part of this channel, subscribe, please do that, and yeah, hit on that bell icon, and as and how more changes will come through, I will share that with you. Thank you for joining in, take care, and I'll see you later.